Odd Relatives, Chapter 19. We started this in our morning meeting, but if you weren't at the morning meeting or you want to hear it again, you can listen to the beginning. If not, you can skip ahead a couple minutes. Thursday was a sunny day, a glorious day. The autumn air was crisp and clear. None of the heirs noticed. So this is a different description of the day than we've had. We've had snowstorms, rainy, gloomy days, but this day is a glorious day, sunny. And lo and behold, stocks are going up. WPP crossed the tape at $44 a share. $44.50, $46, $46 a share, oh my. Don't sell until I give the word, Baba, Alice Turtle had said. Baba. The dressmaker smiled at her new name and eased back in the chair, but not for long. WPP, $48.04. Oh my, oh my. Flora Bomback bit her thumbnail to the quick. If only the child was here. The child was being examined by the school nurse, having been caught again with a radio plugged in her ear. Turtle blamed her misbehavior on a toothache. The only thing that soothes the horrendous pain is listening to music. You should see a dentist, the nurse said. I have an appointment next week, Turtle lied. Can I go home now? The pain is truly unbearable. No. The nurse packed the tooth with foul-tasting cotton and sent her back to class. So every half an hour, Turtle had to ask permission to go to the lavatory, which means bathroom, in order to keep up with the latest stock market reports. Bladder infection, she explained. Can you guys even imagine if Turtle had a cell phone? Right? She would be hiding it in her desk, looking at it. All right, here's Crow. Crow polished Mrs. Wexler's silver teapot with a Westing disposable diaper for the third time. 2 more days, the day after next. It was too painful going back to that house, but Otis said she must to collect her due. It was her penance to go back, not her due. Blessed is he who expects nothing. Boom! Just a warning to keep the doors locked, the delivery boy said, dumping a carton of Westing paper products on the kitchen floor. You know, Crow, old pal, I think I figured out who the bomber is. Crow stiffened as she stared at her distorted reflection in the shining silver. Who? That's right, Otis said. James Shin Hu. He wanted to put the coffee shop out of business, right? Then he had to bomb his own restaurant so no one would suspect him. And he catered the Wexler party. Nobody would notice if the caterer brought in an extra box along with the food, right? James Shin Hu was the bomber. Crow's hands trembled, her face blotched with hate. That beautiful, innocent angel reborn. Sandy said her face will be scarred for life. James Shin Hu, beware. Vengeance shall be mine. Whew, Crow. Well, I don't know why she instantly believes Otis about James Shin Hu being the bomber, right? Like, James Shin Hu is like the most honest character. He tells everybody what he thinks all the time. He doesn't have pent up anger that has to explode or pent up pressure. He's just mad all the time anyway. Okay, the judge rearranged her docket in order to have the last days free. Leave it to Sam Westing to interfere with her work. Sandy turned to his next entry. It's an interesting one. Crow. Bertha Erica Crow, age 57. Mother died at childbirth, raised by father, deceased. Education, 1 year of high school. Then married at 16. Excuse me. Divorced at 40. Ex-husband's name is Wind Clapple. Hospital records. Problems related to chronic alcoholism. Police record. 3 arrests for vagrancy. She gave up drinking when she took up religion. She started at the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen on Skid Row, and she works as a cleaning lady in Sunset Towers. Lives in the maid's apartment on the 4th floor. Westing connection? Question mark. So let's go back to some of this information here. Wow, it's a lot. So she was married to a man named Wendy Windlecouple. She was an alcoholic, which means she drank too much alcohol. And she's been arrested for vagrancy, which means she was possibly homeless or possibly hanging out for too long somewhere where she shouldn't. And then she got religion. And now she gives back to the soup kitchen. Skid Row is an old term for like a bad part of town. So, gosh, that's a lot of information about her. Married at 16, which is super young, right? It's young, and it follows in like Violet and Angela's footsteps as well. Yes, it is interesting, Judge Ford replied, but it hardly tells us what we want to know. You've got a customer. Jake Wexler pointed a spare rib at the black-clad figure standing at the restaurant door. Must be a bill collector, Who said, frowning over his account book. Grace looked up, saw it was only the cleaning woman, and returned to the sports photographs she was sorting. A dozen or more superstars would be framed and hung on one wall of Who's on First. So Grace got her way. They're going to call the restaurant Who's on First. Come on over and join us, Jake shouted. Limping to their table, Crow heard Mrs. Wexler click her tongue. Sinful woman, she'll go to hell with her pride and her covetousness, and take that foot butcher of her husband with her, and with that one, the fat one, the glutton, the bomber, the mutator of innocent children. Okay, she's very dramatic, but she's talking about Mr. Who. Maybe she is a customer, Who thought, recognizing the face clenched in righteous anger as that of a diner not being served fast enough. He rose and pulled out a chair for Crow. Well, my wife will be serving a Chinese tea lunch shortly. Madam Who placed a variety of dumplings on the table, giggled at Jake, and ran back to the kitchen. That tittering Madam Who was a beautiful woman and quite young. Grace, casting a suspicious eye on her husband, was suddenly seized by a surge of gnawing jealousy. Maybe it was just the fried dumpling. Madam Who returned to pour the tea. Jake patted her hand. Good, Grace noticed. She's clutching her stomach. About time she felt jealous. The podiatrist turned to smile to Crow. Nothing wrong with your appetite, I'm happy to see. Nothing is wrong with my mouth, the cleaning woman replied, looking down at her plate. It's my feet that hurt. That corn you cut out didn't heal yet. I got a callus on the sole of my left foot, and my ingrown toenail is growing in again. Ooh. Grace clasped a hand over her mouth and ran out of the restaurant. Mr. Who headed for the kitchen. I guess Grace did not like hearing about Crow's feet at the, lunch table. Your trouble comes from years of wearing the wrong shoes, Jake lectured. Crow wasn't listening. James Shin Hu, the bomber, was coming back. He had something in his hand. Here, Crow, try these. I invented them myself. Paper insoles. They'll make you feel like you're floating on air. It's tough standing on your feet all day. Here, take them. Crow examined the 2 pads of spongy folded paper. How much? Nothing. Compliments of the house. So those are those like Dr. Scholl's foot pads you can slip into shoes, and they help if you're on your feet all day. Still suspicious, Crow slipped the inner soles into her shoes and tried walking. What a blessed relief. Otis Amber was wrong. James Shin Hu was a charitable man. He couldn't be the bomber. Crow floated out of the restaurant without paying for her lunch. So just as easily as she was convinced he was the bomber, she is now convinced he is not the bomber. Oh no, not another victim, Seidel Pulaski cried, stuffing her notes under the mattress. So back to the hospital. The nurse wheeled Chris next to Angela's bed and explained that the boy was being tested for a new medication. Are you all right, Chris? She asked, bending over the squirming patient. Chris was trying to remove a blank, sealed envelope from his bathrobe pocket. Oh, maybe he's borrowing his brother's robe in the hospital. He knew his brother had a crush on Angela. He figured Theo must have snuck upstairs in the wrong bathroom to slip this letter under Angela's door and then remembered she was in the hospital and was too shy to give it to her in person. "Look at that smile," Seidel exclaimed. "From Theo," he said. Chris hoped to watch Angela read the love letter, but the nurse insisted he return to his room. "Bye, bye, good luck," Seidel called. Angela waved a bandaged hand. "Mountain," Chris replied. "From Turtle." Serves her right for kicking his partner. Mountain, Angela thought. Turtle's MT stood for mountain, not empty. And the letter was not from Theo. "Your love has two, here are two for you. Take her away from this sin and hate, now, before it's too late." Again, 2 clues were taped at the bottom, "with majesties." Crow and Otis Amber's clues are not king and queen, she told Seidel. They are "with thy beautiful majesties." Sandy and the judge were still at work on the airs. All right, so before we switch scenes, what just happened here? Chris mistakenly hands Angela a note he thinks is from Theo, but it's actually from Crow, giving her clues, right? But the note is not for Angela. Take her away from the sin and hate now before it's too late. It's for Theo. So now Angela has Theo's note from Crow. Okay. Sandy and the judge back at work at the information they got from their private investigator. Jake Wexler, age 45, podiatrist, graduated from Marquette. Married 22 years, has 2 daughters, see below. Grace Winslow Wexler, born Gracie Winkloppel, age 42. Where have we heard this last name before? Married to above, claims to be an interior decorator, spends most of her time in the Chinese restaurant or the beauty parlor. She and Jake have 2 daughters. Angela Wexler, age 20, engaged to Mary D. Denton Deary, also an heir. 1 year of college, high grades. Victim of the 3rd bombing, embroiders a lot. Turtle Wexler, real name, Tabitha Ruth Wexler, age 13, junior high school student, plays the stock market. Smart kid, but kicks people. Flora Bomback calls her Alice. Westing connection. Grace Winslow Wexler claims that Sam Westing is her real uncle. Angela looks like Violet Westing. So does Grace in a way, except she's older. Sandy fidgeted with his pen. "Well, there's something I didn't write down. Maybe I shouldn't tell you. You being a judge and all, but well, Jake Wexler, he's a bookie." No, he should not have told her. "A small-time operator, I'm sure, Mr. McSuthers," the judge replied coldly. "It can have no bearing on the matter before us. Sam Westing manipulated people, cheated workers, bribed officials, stole ideas, but Sam Westing never smoked or drank or placed a bet. Give me a bookie any day over such a fine, upstanding, clean-living man." The doorman's face reddened. He pulled the dented flask from his hip pocket and downed several swigs. She had been too harsh. "Would you like me to fix you a drink, Mr. McSuthers?" "No, thanks, Judge. I prefer my good old Scotch." "Windclopple!" The judge's outburst was so unexpected. Sandy had a hard time keeping down the last swig. "Grace Wexler's maiden name is not Winsler. It's Windcouple," the judge exclaimed, rifling through the pages of Sandy's notebook. "Here it is. Bertha Erica Crow, ex-husband's name, Windy Windcouple." Sandy stopped coughing, started laughing. "Grace Winslow Wexler is related to someone, all right. She's related to the cleaning woman. Think she knows it, Judge?" "I doubt it. Besides, we cannot be certain of that relationship. I'd like to see the documents in Crow's folder again." "I'm sure it's Windcouple, Judge. I checked all my spellings 3 times over." Judge Ford reread the private investigator's reports. "Mr. McSuthers, it is Windcouple, but look carefully at the name of the woman in this interview." Bertha Erica Crow? Sure, I knew her. She and her pa lived in the upstairs flat. We were best friends, almost like sisters, but she was the pretty one, with her beautiful complexion and long gold-red hair. She left school to marry a guy named Windklopple. Haven't seen or heard from her since. She's not in any trouble, is she? Transcript of a taped interview with Sybil Pulaski, November 12th. Pulaski, the doorman said. Not just Pulaski, the judge pointed out. Sybil Pulaski. Sam Westing wanted Crow's childhood friend, Sybil Pulaski, to be the heir. He got Sidel Pulaski instead. Ugh, gee, Judge, I never noticed that. Boy, I am dumb. But what does it mean? What it means, Mr. McSuthers, is that Sam Westing made his first mistake. So we can talk about what that mistake is. Sybil Pulaski versus Sidel Pulaski. Somebody in this configuration is the mistake. Does this mean that Sidel is the mistake? We'll see. Chapter 20, Confessions. That is coming next.